Hello, welcome back to the Metroid Retrospective. In today's episode, we'll be taking a look at the third game in the series, Super Metroid. I'm not going to beat around the bush. Super Metroid is my favorite game of all time. It has been ever since the first time I completed it back in 2009. There's always been something about the world of Super Metroid that just drew me right in, be it the epic opening cutscene, the introductory battle against Ridley, or the monumental soundtrack. There's always been something so enthralling to me about Super Metroid. As I got older, I would dive deeper into the game. Eventually, I would go on to spend one hot summer night playing through the game 3 times in a row, back to back, just to see how fast I could finish it. I spent many hours of my teenage years just playing through the game, mastering every advanced technique that I could until eventually I would reach the top 800 players in the worldwide ranking of speedrunners.
Once you speedrun getting some pussy.
Suffice to say, I am no stranger to this game. I'm certain that I've completed it well over 100 times at this point. This time, however, I'm going to be taking a look at it through a critical lens. Is Super Metroid one of the best games of all time? Does it build upon the momentum created by the previous 2 installments? Join me today as we answer these questions while taking a look at Super Metroid. Again developed by Nintendo R&D 1, Super Metroid entered development almost immediately after the completion of Metroid 2. The first ever public mention of Super Metroid was made in a June 1992 issue of Nintendo Power, where it was teased that an SNES Metroid may be in development. Super Metroid was the largest SNES game ever made at the time of its release, coming in at a whopping 24 megabits, or 3 megabytes. This factor actually led to a somewhat stressful development environment. In the words of Metroid co-creator Yoshio Sakamoto, Gunpei Yokoi was always angry when he saw us all completely absorbed in working crazy overtime on Super Metroid. He'd come in and say, "Are you lot trying to produce a work of art or something?" Yokoi-san was becoming angrier with us day by day during that period. The game was nearly canceled 3 separate times. Little did Mr. Yokoi know, the team were producing a work of art. The game won numerous awards from gaming publications at the time of its 1994 release. In 2003, Electronic Gaming Monthly would go on to name Super Metroid the best game of all time. And today, its influence can still be felt in games such as Hollow Knight, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, and Axiom Verge. It is safe to say that the influence of Super Metroid will not be waning anytime soon. So long as there are gamers who love its atmospheric and labyrinthine approach to game design, there will always be a little piece of Super Metroid in the heart of the gaming industry. This time around, the manual holds no more information for us than the game itself, a major leap forward for the Metroid series. The game opens with a cutscene, which recounts to us the events of the previous 2 games, immediately giving this game a sense of scope and finality that has not been seen in the series at all up to this point. Immediately following the events of Metroid 2, Samus delivers the baby Metroid to the Galactic Research Facility at Ceres Space Station. Here it is discovered that the Metroid's energy-producing qualities could be used for the good of mankind. Samus leaves the research station, satisfied with the news. But before she can even leave the asteroid belt, she receives a distress signal. Ceres Station is under attack. Samus returns to find the space station in ruins. The bloody remains of the research team are scattered throughout, and the baby Metroid is missing. Samus searches the station in great detail, only to find that the baby Metroid has been stolen by the space pirate leader, Ridley. Samus does her best to ward him off, but is no match without full power. Ridley escapes with the baby Metroid, and the space station's self-destruct sequence is activated. Samus escapes and follows Ridley to planet Zebes, still standing after the events of Metroid 1. She must now traverse the planet once again and find her way to the space pirate base. It does not take long until the pirates are alerted to Samus's presence. When she acquires her first items, security cameras are activated that alert the pirates to the intruder. Eventually, Samus will come across an underwater research facility filled with the pirates' failed attempts at cloning Metroids. It is at this moment that the true danger of the pirates' nefarious plans are brought to our attention. They intend to clone the Metroid for use as a bioweapon. Samus has a final showdown with Ridley in his hideout, where we are led to believe that we can now finally secure the baby Metroid and leave, but it is revealed that it has long since been taken from Ridley to the newly rebuilt Torian. Upon arrival to Torian, it is revealed to us that the space pirates have now successfully managed to clone the baby Metroid, with Metroids filling the hostile walls of the area. As Samus makes her way through Torian, she comes across damaged remains of enemies that would typically be much more powerful than her. At this point, she encounters the baby once again, now genetically modified to grow way beyond its normal size and ability. It is immune to all of Samus's attacks. The baby attaches to her and drains her health until she's nearly dead. For unknown reasons, the baby pulls away and we are allowed to live. We make our way through the rest of Torian to find the mother brain, alive once again and in the same state she was once before. Fill her with missiles, just as you did in Metroid 1, and she's done for, or so you think. The mother brain stands up to reveal its true form. Growing a body and limbs, she towers over Samus, who does everything in her power to destroy Mother Brain, but is left powerless when she expends all of her ammo. She is no match for the behemoth. Mother Brain attacks Samus with an energy beam that drastically reduces her health. Samus is brought to her knees. She tries her hardest to continue the battle, but it's no use. Just in the final hour, as Samus is nearly dead, and Mother Brain is about to attack one last time, the Super Metroid appears and saves your life, draining the life force of Mother Brain and giving it to you. But Mother Brain is not done quite yet. Mother Brain awakens to destroy the baby. It tries to latch back onto her, but it is no use. The Metroid falls to its death, bearing one last gift for you, the energy beam that nearly killed Samus. In a moment that could be best compared to
Get away from her, you bitch!
Samus stands up to fight once again and absolutely destroys Mother Brain once and for all. But the battle is not over just yet. Zebes has been rigged with a bomb that will destroy the entire planet. Samus must escape before the timer runs out, or she will go down with it. She makes her way back to the ship and lives to fight another day. This story is straight up incredible. Despite the fact that none of it is directly told to you after the opening cutscene, it is made clear what is happening throughout by environmental set pieces and scripted events. This game pushes the idea of environmental storytelling to its absolute limit, and uses it to tell one of the most satisfying stories in gaming history. The narrative in this game is a massive step up from both of the previous entries in the series, a jump so drastic that it created a new standard by which all later entries will be compared to. Super Metroid makes many improvements in the area of gameplay. This time around, we are brought back to a more open-ended structure that is much more reminiscent of Metroid 1 than it is Metroid 2. The return to a more exploratory structure is a welcome addition, making this game feel much more like a sequel to the first game than Metroid 2 did. The player is once again given the freedom to explore however they see fit. Exploration is made much easier in this game than in previous installments. This entry marks the first time that an in-game map is included. The map fills itself out more and more as you explore, giving you easy reference to look back on and plan your routes. There are also dedicated stations that will fill your map out for you, which can be quite a treat to find due to just how large the world is in this game. The game is laid out into 6 separate areas: the Caves of Crateria, the large swathing Brinstar, composed of a jungle, a swamp, and a cave, the lava-filled Norfair, boasting a serious facelift over its previous depiction, the haunted and desolate wrecked ship, the underwater maze of Meridia, and the newly rebuilt Torian. Each area has a distinct sense of atmosphere, and many of them house separate sub-areas that have a completely different feel to them. The aesthetics in every area are unique, and the jump to the 16-bit hardware really allowed the developers to experiment and create some truly compelling environments that feel natural and lived in. On top of that, every area has its own boss encounter. Crateria has us facing off against a Chozo statue that attacks you after collecting bombs. Brinstar introduces us to the plant-based life form Spore Spawn, and the now gargantuan reincarnation of Kraid. Norfair sees us encounter 3 separate bosses, including Crocomire, a large lizard who dwells in pools of lava, another offensive Chozo statue, and Ridley. The wrecked ship has an encounter with the supernatural entity that is Phantoon. Meridia features the attack of the large crustacean Dragon, as well as the huge underwater snake named Batwoon. And finally, in Torian, we encounter the newly rebuilt Mother Brain, serving more as a cutscene than an actual boss battle. These are the best boss fights the series has ever seen up to this point. It seems the developers took a lot of notes from the Queen Metroid encounter from the previous game. Every boss fight in Super Metroid requires a strong understanding of the controls, as well as great pattern memorization and dexterity. Every boss seems to strike a perfect balance between challenge and pure fun. The controls have been expanded upon even further this time around. Jumps feel much tighter, and Samus's moveset is expanded even further. We are now allowed to aim in 8 directions with the D-pad, and we are also given the ability to aim diagonally with the shoulder buttons. These additions are the single greatest enhancements in Samus's toolkit we have ever seen. They are such nice additions that it makes it hard to go back to previous installments. On top of all of these improvements, we once again see Samus's abilities expanded upon even further by the acquisition of items. Almost every item from the previous 2 games returns here, with the only exception being the Spider Ball. The game more than makes up for it though, through the addition of 8 new items to discover. They are as follows: Charge Beam, allowing you to charge up your shot to deal extra damage, alleviating any fear of running out of ammo during a boss encounter. Grapple Beam, an item that allows you to shoot an electromagnetic whip that clings to certain blocks. X-Ray Scope, an item that allows you to scan a room for destructible blocks, as well as hidden pathways. Super Missiles, an attack that deals very high levels of damage, opens green doors, and destroys super missile blocks. Power Bombs, a very powerful screen nuke that will kill the majority of enemies on screen, open yellow doors, and destroy power bomb blocks. Speed Booster, an item which allows Samus to break the sound barrier and destroy certain walls. How's this for blast processing, Sega? Reserve Tanks, which allow you to store additional energy in case you run out. And finally, Gravity Suit, the best upgrade in the game, reducing all damage you receive by 75% and allowing you to move freely underwater. On top of all of this, there are also 2 additional moves you can learn by encountering 2 Zebezian natives later in the game. The first of which is the wall jump, which is actually available to you from the start of the game. This move allows you to jump off of walls and scale ridiculous heights. The wall jump can be quite tricky to pull off, but once you get it down, it feels so satisfying. This move is so powerful that you can actually use it to outsmart the game and skip several items that would otherwise be mandatory. I truly love it so much. The second of which is the Shine Spark, a move which can only be used after you acquire the speed booster. This item allows you to store your speed and go flying in one of 5 different directions. This move is not mandatory for a normal playthrough of the game, but is essential for 100% completion. It will also allow you to skip multiple sections of the game. All of these additions greatly enhance your abilities while traveling through the world of Zebes. By the end of the game, you feel like a walking tank. If you collect enough items, you are nearly invincible during the last quarter of the game. It feels so satisfying to just mow down anything in your path. The addition of the advanced moves creates a level of freedom that I don't think I've experienced in any other game I've ever played. There are large chunks of the game that you can straight up ignore if you develop a level of mastery with this game's controls. Despite all of the ways in which the team has perfected almost every aspect of the previous installments, no game is perfect. There are still a few areas which I feel could be improved. My biggest critique of this game is also one of my favorite aspects. When you are taught the advanced techniques by the little creatures in Brinstar, you are locked into an area where you are forced to learn these abilities. I love that the developers really wanted to make sure that you are able to pull these off, and I think the inclusion of these abilities are one of the best aspects of the game. However, I do think that it is unfair that an uninitiated player can become locked in these areas if they don't figure them out. Not everyone who plays this game is looking to master the game and its controls. Sadly, I've heard reports from many people that these specific rooms led many players to outright quit the game. To make this matter worse, there are save stations located right beside both of these encounters, which, if used, will leave you trapped in these areas until you figure out how to get out. Again, I love the inclusion of these abilities, and I think it's great that the team really wanted players to learn them, but I think this was entirely the wrong way to go about it. The final issue I have with this game is that a couple areas are a little too well hidden. This aspect is no problem to me and wouldn't be for most players who are acquainted with this genre. However, total newcomers can be completely thrown off by this. The major offenders are the pathway to Kraid and the path out of Crateria leading to Brinstar. On the bright side, players are taught about this aspect of the game within the first 30 minutes, so I do believe that Super Metroid handles the issue much better than Metroid 1 did. Compared to the first 2 games, I truly feel that there is much less of this game that is worthy of critiquing. I once again found many more aspects of this game that I loved than anything which I disliked. The world design in this game is the best that the series will ever see. There will be times where you get lost, but there are so many items to collect in this game that it is ensured that there will never be a moment in which a play session is unproductive. The game does an excellent job at guiding you forward at every point. This game is still the gold standard of Metroidvania world design to this day. Once again, Samus's controls have been perfected this time around. Things are simple enough that with enough time, anyone can understand them, but there's also so much room for improvement that mastery can open up so many doors to the player. On top of all of the enhancements made to the controls, another fantastic addition to this game is the fact that all beam upgrades now combine together. No longer do you need to worry about collecting Ice Beam again to kill Metroids. Now, once you collect a beam upgrade, it is yours for good. By the end of the game, all of the beams combined create a ridiculously powerful weapon, and it feels great to use. The level of atmosphere in this game is monumental, especially compared to the previous 2 installments. There is much more variety here. Some areas can be dark and unnerving, while others can be beautiful and serene. And the soundtrack only serves to further enhance the atmosphere, with almost every track being a perfect fit for the area in which they serve. Both themes in Meridia fit perfectly for an area that can be so lonely, uncomfortable, and terrifying. The theme for Ridley's hideout is brutal and really drives home the intensity of the area. The theme for Red Brinstar is one of my favorite musical pieces of all time, and really captures the vibe of an alien swamp so well. And finally, the intro theme is a musical masterpiece, evoking a sense of scope and finality to this game that just could not be topped in this era. I have to say that I wholeheartedly believe that this game deserves every bit as much praise as it receives. This game is truly a masterpiece, and having experienced the previous two installments before coming back to this one, only gave me more appreciation for just how much Super Metroid did for this series. When you play these games in order of release, you are left with the intense feeling that Metroid 1 and 2 are like alpha and beta builds of this game. Words cannot describe just how much the jump to 16-bit hardware did for this series. But there's still so much more to look at. The more work you put into mastering this game's controls, the more it opens itself up for you. So much so, in fact, that I truly believe it becomes an entirely separate game. At some point in your learning, this turns into a game of seeing just how capable you really are, just how far you can deviate from the sequence of events that most players experience their first time through. It is for this reason that I'm going to be taking a second look at this game, examining the second quest of Super Metroid. Just how capable is Samus in this game? Just how far can you push the limits of the world design? Join me next time as we take a deep dive into the world of sequence-breaking Super Metroid.